Welcome, everybody, to Congregation L'Dor Va-Dor's Parson to Parson this December 19th, 2022. We have with us Rabbi Barry Silver and Pastor Fritz Aufdencamp. Parson to Parson was named for a radio show that Rabbi Sam Silver, Rabbi Barry's dad, had many years ago. And we talk about hot topics, controversial issues. And with that, I will turn it over to Pastor Fritz, Rabbi Barry, for them to take off. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Sharon. Most people think that Jews don't believe in resurrection. But as you say, Sharon, we resurrected the program of my father, and now it's born again. This time it's born again in a different form on the internet through the miracle of Zoom, and we appreciate your organizing this. So I thought, Pastor Aufdencamp, it would be interesting to talk about the holidays of Hanukkah and Christmas, what they mean to us, and also I wanted to share why Jews might want to celebrate Christmas and why Christians might want to celebrate Hanukkah. So I'll be glad to let you start out if you want. Do you want to share any thoughts about the two holidays?
Well, at our service at the Unitarian Fellowship yesterday, we did celebrate Hanukkah, and we heard the story of the Maccabean restoration of the temple. And so, but Christian churches, I'm sure, I wasn't aware of that at all until I began attending the Unitarian Fellowship, because the Christian churches just are completely oblivious to this, because it's not important, for Christians to know that. And after Maccabeans did restore the temple, what happened after that?
Well, they established independence for the Jewish people, but the Hasmonean dynasty became very, very corrupt, and they kind of ran Judea into the ground. And then there was a sibling conflict between Christobulus and Aristobulus. They were fighting with each other, and one of them invited in the Romans to take their side so that they would have a huge advantage. And once they invited in the Romans decided not to leave. That was the beginning of the end for Jewish independence. So it was rather short-lived.
How long did they have the temple restored? How long did that last?
Well, it lasted until 70 CE when it was destroyed. It was destroyed in 70 CE, shortly after the time of Jesus.
So when Jesus said the temple was okay.
Yeah, but it was not just the temple. It was that they achieved independence. What the Assyrian Greece wanted to wipe out Judaism. Their goal was to end Judaism. In 333 BCE, Alexander the Great took over most of the known world, including the Middle East. And he was a rather enlightened leader. He figured as long as you pay tribute to Greece and accept Greek culture, you can also have your own culture. He didn't have to be replaced, it would just be in addition to it. So he didn't impose his will with an iron hand on the conquered peoples. And a lot of people enjoyed Greek culture. A lot of people thought that this was a wonderful thing, that a modern scientific culture was coming in, and it was okay. But what happened was, when he died, 3 generals took over. And then these generals eventually spawned dynasties that were not nearly as enlightened. So in the Middle East, in the land of Judea, there was a ruler named Antiochus Epiphanes. And Antiochus decided that he wanted everyone in the region to worship him and to replace the native religions. A lot of religions went along with it, but the Jews didn't. So he went into the temple and put an idol there and had pigs around and told Jews they had to do all these things to destroy their religion. And some of the Jews were willing to go along. Some of them didn't really care. But one family, Mattathias, the Maccabees, they did care. And according to the legend, there was a Jewish person who was sacrificing to the Greek god. Mattathias killed him, and then started a guerrilla war and went out into the hinterland and miraculously defeated the greatest empire at that time, the Seleucid Greeks. And so the holiday celebrates miracles, and it also celebrates Jewish independence. And the reason why Christians should care about Hanukkah is because if there never was a Hanukkah, if that story never happened, there never would have been a Christianity. If Judaism was wiped out in 165 BCE, Christianity never would have emerged from it. Now, some Christians think, well, of course, God would have made sure that his plan was taken care of. But if you look at it historically, Christians should celebrate the holiday of Hanukkah, which preserved Judaism, which led to Christianity. Jesus must have celebrated Hanukkah. That would have been a big day for him. But the Jewish people in the time of the Romans downplayed the Independence Day aspect of it because they were living under Roman rule. So imagine if you're celebrating the 4th of July and you have a foreign occupier and you're celebrating your independence, where you fought for independence against a foreign occupier. The Romans would have thought, oh, now they're going to try that with us. So the Jewish people suppressed the real meaning. They came up with this legend about oil lasting for 8 days. And they said, yeah, we're just celebrating a miracle of oil for 8 days. Well, we got rid of some idols from the temple. But purifying the temple was a big deal. But Jewish independence and the ability to preserve their religion is really the main part of the story. And the menorah reminds us that if you have one light, it's called a shamash, it means a helper. And then from that one light, it lights all the other ones. So it teaches us that in darkness, one light can be power. And if you spread that light, the light of love, the light of learning, there's no stopping it. You got a mighty flame. That's the message of Hanukkah. Hanukkah means dedication. Dedication, willing to fight and work hard for a good cause.
Speaking of miracles, 60 Minutes did a thing on Lourdes yesterday. Did you happen to see it?
No.
Yeah, well, you should watch it. They did a special on the thousands of people that go there every year. And they have doctors and medical people who supposedly examine the miracles to authenticate. They've had like 70 of the thousands that have been there that have claimed miracles. They have 70 that are authenticated as real miracles. And I'm just kind of wondering, what is the purpose of this? What does it accomplish, really?
Are you a little skeptical about that?
I don't know. I think so. My understanding of miracles is a miracle until we understand what happened. And if we don't understand it, it's called a miracle. But once we understand what happened, then it moves out of the status of being a miracle.
Well, there are different types of miracles. Einstein said that you could look at the universe as if nothing's a miracle or everything's a miracle.
Yes.
What he meant was that nothing's miraculous in a supernatural way. Everything, like you say, can be explained eventually, but just the workings of nature, the way our human bodies work and the earth and the universe and the sun, all of these things are miracles, but it doesn't necessarily imply, and in fact, it doesn't imply at all, supernatural. It just means that the natural way this universe is set up is quite miraculous. And so we in the religious world, we view everything as a miracle. Some people attribute that miracle to God. Other people attribute that miracle to the nature of matter and how the universe functions.
The nun who, oh, let somebody else speak. I hear someone.
Oh, okay, good. Sharon, does anyone want to join the conversation?
I thought I heard someone. Maybe.
I thought I heard someone too, but everybody's muted right now, so I don't know who that is.
Anyway, the nun who was the 70th authenticated miracle, she was in tears when she realized that hers was selected as a real miracle. And I still did not, it made her feel very good, I'm sure, but I'm still not sure what the value of it is. Does that give me special feeling to know that somehow I'm so special in God's eyes that they can authenticate what God did for me? I don't understand that.
Yeah, I think it's psychosomatic, or people are faking, or people just wish themselves well, and it's a figment of their imagination. I don't believe that anybody has healing power like that. But if you do believe you're going to get better, a lot of times that works. They know that scientifically.
there's a lot of energy of the universe within us that I think we perhaps have not tapped into as perhaps we could. And maybe there is some power within us that we are kind of not fully aware of.
That could very well be. Now, I also wanted to speak about why Jews could celebrate Christmas.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that they should, but they could for this reason. Christians tend to view Jesus as the Messiah and also as the Son of God. Some Christians only see him as the Messiah, not the Son of God. Some as the Son of God and the Messiah, and others just view him as a great sage or prophet. So there's various ways of looking at Jesus, even from a Christian perspective. If you look at Jesus as a teacher or rabbi, which he was called, as somebody who followed in the Jewish tradition, love your neighbor as yourself, and someone who is willing to fight against the empire of Rome in order to bring about the power of love instead of the love of power, there's no reason why you couldn't celebrate the birth of such a person. We might view him as legendary, but we have a lot of legends that we celebrate in the calendar. And so there's no reason why you couldn't celebrate someone who's an exemplar for the power of love along with the Christians. I taught my kids, I said to my kids, Jesus, we don't even know if he lived. The accounts of him are quite unreliable. We don't know. If he did, it seems clear to me he didn't meet any of the criteria of the Messiah, and he clearly wasn't the son of the Godhead. But you could still go to Christmas parties. You can still go to churches and celebrate. You're celebrating the birth of a Jewish person who, according to legend, lived up and embodied Jewish ideals. Nothing wrong with that. You just celebrate in your own. And I say the same thing to interfaith families who struggle with this every year. How do we deal with Christmas and Hanukkah? How are we going to celebrate both, or do we celebrate neither? And so that's a way that you could look at it and have Jews celebrating Christmas and Christians celebrating Hanukkah as well. You want to open it up, Sharon? You want to ask if anybody have any questions or comments? All right, then we'll keep going. Fritz, tell me your thoughts about Christmas. I know you see things a little differently than many Christians.
Yes, I do. I've been going around with some relatives and people who are not relatives over this whole idea of Christmas and who Jesus was and so forth. And they love they somehow feel lost if Jesus isn't what they always thought he was. And they have trouble adapting to that. They love the specialness of what God has done for them through Jesus, and they cling to that desperately. I'm always kind of amazed that Jesus really thought he was going to introduce a kingdom on earth. He thought that somehow he would play a role in bringing this, because the Jews desperately wanted some kind of justice, and they wanted a Messiah, or someone who would bring some kind of divine lifestyle into Judaism, and he thought he would be instrumental in doing that. But of course he didn't, and even though he very clearly talked about the fact that I'm going to do this within our lifetime, but it didn't happen. And of course, as time goes along, we find other ways of rationalizing why. Well, we didn't understand God's plan correctly just then. So,
yeah, he does have a few quotes there saying that before some of you taste death who are standing here, I will return in my kingdom.
That's
and
right.
So that presented a big problem. One of the ways that Christians resolved that was to say, well, he intended to do it, but those stubborn Jewish people rejected him. And so he said, this generation is not worthy. And therefore, I was planning on coming back, but I'm not now. The only way I'll come back is when the Jews see the light and they decide that they're ready to accept me as the Messiah. And that is a fairly strong element of early Christianity. which caused some Christians to think, well, if we persecute the Jews, humiliate them, wipe some of them out, eventually they'll realize their inferior status, the error in their ways, and they'll come around and they'll accept Jesus, and then we'll all live happily ever after. So some of these concepts have some very deadly consequences to them.
Yes. I hear somebody, there must be somebody wanting to say something. Maybe not, I don't know. I thought I heard somebody again.
Maybe there's a voice coming to you from on high. Who's trying to influence or get a word in this discussion.
I don't know if I had a writing recently about hot tub theology, where I was in my hot tub talking with a resident here at the condo who's a Jewish individual, raised in Israel, many family members still there. In fact, he swam on Israel's swim team, national swim team. And he was sharing with me about, and he brought this up. I'm not doing this. He brings this up about that Christians are becoming a strong part of Israel. There's a strong movement over there of Christians, and he found them very friendly and nice and all that. And of course we are. And then they want to invite him to a Bible study, but he kind of saw through that and decided not to attend. But I think it's so ironic that, not ironic, I think it's almost tragic that Christians are almost using Israel and Jerusalem as a way to attain their own goals, though they pretend that we're doing this for the Jewish people. But
right.
It's so, I don't know, it just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
Really.
And the thing is that many Jewish people are perfectly willing to accept their support of Israel, even though they know that there's an ulterior motive, or it's not genuine love of the Jewish people, because they believe that Israel has to be firmly established and the Jews have to return to Israel before Jesus comes back again. And then what's going to happen is all the Jews are going to be sent to hell, except for the ones, apparently 144,000, 12,000 from each tribe, who are going to see the light and convert. The other ones are all going somewhere bad. So you're right, it's not really a love of the Jewish people at all. And it's really a denigration of the Jewish religion. It's denying the validity of Judaism. And many Jews are perfectly willing to go along with that because they will do anything to get support for Israel.
I'm sorry to have taken us away from Christmas. I'm sorry I did that, but I didn't mean to. Christmas Eve, the hymns and so forth. Of course, I was raised with the Silent Night, Holy Night, and the Christ child, and I have so many powerful, warm feelings on Christmas that have to do with this birth of this child, which is fine if you can just not get into all the theology of what's behind all of that. Just to deal with the birth of a baby, it's pretty inspiring.
Well, you know, I find that if you take mythology and you believe it to be true, it can be very, very powerful. Like you say, especially if you experience this from your youth, and you're filled with visions about kings and shepherds and a miraculous birth, and someone who is pure love. I mean, and someone who gave his life for others, and it's a son of God. I mean, these are very, very powerful images. And certainly if people believe this to be true, it would be a really beautiful thing to experience. And so there's no discounting that. These feelings that people have are very, very real. But the analogy that I use is that if you think you've just won the lottery and you have a winning ticket, you're going to be really, really happy. It's going to make you feel all good all over. If your ticket is not the winning ticket, if you're wrong, but you think it's the right one, you'll be just as happy.
Exactly.
Whether it's true or not, you're just as happy because you believe it to be true. Mm-hmm. And some people are desperate to believe something to be true because it makes them feel so good inside that they're willing to say, you know what, I'm not going to check my number on the lottery ticket. I don't really want to know. I'll just believe that this is the winning ticket. And so some people don't really want to know. And when they don't really want to know the truth, there's a difference between not knowing the truth and not wanting to know the truth. When you don't want to know the truth, then you become very defensive. And then if somebody's saying something contrary to that, you don't discuss it rationally, you get mad. And if there's a whole group of people who are challenging your belief, like the Jewish people who are challenging that belief that makes people feel really good. It's like you're tugging at their security blanket and they get very mad. The reason why Jews are especially vulnerable to that is because Jesus was Jewish. And so you would think the Jewish people would be the first ones to acknowledge him and to welcome him. Christians have a little bit of a problem because if his own people rejected him, that kind of casts an aspersion upon them, because who are these people to know about Jesus better than his own people? So therefore they came up with something, well, the reason they didn't accept him was because they conspired with the devil. Their father is now the devil, so they were blinded. They couldn't see. They were so blinded by their rituals and their love of money and their love of power, they could no longer see the truth. And so it all ties in with this antagonism that we have between each other. And if we actually looked at things rationally and tried to figure out what's really going on, we could overcome so many of these problems, including the problem of anti-Semitism. Anybody have anything they want to add? Valerie?
Of course. Even though I came in a little bit late, two things. Number one, there's an expression, does the means justify the end, or does the end justify the means? If ultimately the end result is what you want it to be, and I think Bibi Netanyahu feels this way, Israel is here, Israel's going to stay. However we got here, we're keeping it. End of story. I think that's the attitude there. And, you know, as far as Jesus was Jewish, Yahshua is Jewish and never was anything else but. You know, a lot of people don't realize that. He doesn't know from Catholicism, from Christianity. He had no clue. He was dead. He was dead for 400 years before anybody invented that word. Before you know, Constantine's tribunal decided to politicize that aspect of these Gnostic texts. That's also true. And also, when Rabbi Barry is just describing, we're blamed for the love of money, for the love of power, you're describing the church.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know, those are the 3 points that I have.
Yes, it's pure projectionism. You know, you're projecting onto another group the faults that you have for yourself. That's exactly right.
The the hierarchy that I correspond with, the bishop of our denomination and the presidents of our seminaries, I'm convinced they really agree with me on many, many things, but they like their jobs and they're afraid of the risk of what will happen to them if they question what they are supposed to be projecting. Even though I know they can't think these crazy things. I find that so hard to believe that they are somewhat rational people, but they're afraid to speak the truth. They really are.
I agree with you 100%. It's hard to tell the truth when your livelihood is dependent on a lie.
Exactly. I found that out. I had 5 kids in a parsonage I lived in.
And telling people what they want to hear and selling them a bill of goods, well, ask any politician. That's a good way to get money and power. Just tell people what they want to hear. And if they hear it from enough people, they think, well, they can't all be wrong. I guess this is true. And that's the human mind is not so much rational, but rationalizing. Yeah. We are much more willing to believe what makes us feel good than to believe what is actually true. The problem is when you believe what makes you feel good, you're dealing with a way of life or a philosophy that is contradicted by reality. So you have to keep reality out. And you don't really get to face life on its own terms. You don't get to face life with courage and boldness and to confront what's really going on in the world. And also, when it comes with a lot of other baggage, negativity, then causes all types of problems.
Yeah. The person I really blame for what's happened in Christianity is Paul. Paul is the one who really made Christianity, and of course he got all his information directly from Jesus, supposedly. In fact, he even put down what the disciples were saying because he knew better, because he got it directly from Jesus. I have to listen to those disciples because I got it directly from Jesus, and he put so much of his own things into promoting Christianity that I really fault him as to how it became this whole atonement idea that we're stuck with, you know.
Yeah, well, I think Paul was a genius. He said that to the Gentiles, we should be Gentiles. To the Jews, we're a
I know.
Jew. To
He's
the,
fork
to the
tongue.
Romans,
Sure
we're
did.
Roman.
That's
He
right.
was a great salesman, and he admitted it. He was everything to everybody. So what did he do? He took a Jewish story and he just adapted it to make it pagan. So all of a sudden now with Paul, Jesus is the Son of God. We believe that originally he was never seen that way, and he didn't see himself that way.
Oh.
But because Paul was Roman and was trying to sell this concept to the Roman people, they believed in gods, usually a male god, a virgin woman, and they would produce a hybrid. That was fairly commonplace in that part of the world. He also took December 25th, which was Saturnalia, which was a big holiday for them, and continued to celebrate it, but he just added a little bit about Jesus in there, that this is Jesus' birthday. And he took many, many elements of Greek and Roman mythology and others that were circulating at the time in the Roman Empire, and he created Christianity, as Valerie says, completely unknown to Jesus. And then Constantine codified it with the Council of Nicaea, where they actually took a vote on which books are good and which ones are not authentic. Yeah.
So what are we going to do about this materialism we're caught up with in Christmas? Are we just going to be stuck with this? Our pastor, our minister, our interim minister really admitted that she almost kind of dreads Christmas because of the chaos that goes on in Christian homes and the materialism that has just taken over us. And I don't know how you ever remove yourself from that.
Well, you know, I often think that Jews are very lucky in that our holiday has not been taken over by commercialism or by being linked with Western materialism. And so our holiday of Hanukkah is still rather pure. We do borrow from the Christians. Oh, this is a gift-giving time. We don't want our kids to feel left out. So we give presents on Hanukkah, which I don't think was done like centuries ago. But I just feel so good that it hasn't been taken over. We still have the menorah and the lights and the beautiful stories and the family gatherings. And that's pretty much about it. But you know, some of the Christmas songs are really, really beautiful. Like I say, the mythology of Christianity and the birth of Jesus and the angels and it's just a beautiful story. And so it has a lot of power, especially the music. The music, which reinforces this myth, is really, really powerful on a lot of different levels.
Music does
yeah, and even Jewish people enjoy hearing the Christmas music. Absolutely.
But Jewish people wrote some of the Christmas music.
Right. Irving Berlin wrote White Christmas, I believe.
That is
and a couple of others.
Song.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
You know what the least popular is? When the reindeer ran over grandma. That's the least. The guy at our ukulele group the other day told us they're like 20, I don't know how many thousands of Christmas songs. We couldn't believe it. And he knew the most popular one, which you just mentioned, and the least popular one.
Well, what's funny is that most of the Christmas songs have nothing to do with Jesus. There's very few that actually deal with Jesus. It's about jingle bells and snow and winter. And that's another thing about Christmas. The winter time is just a beautiful, beautiful time. The snow and the romance of it and sleigh riding and
yes.
snowmen and stuff like that. So Christianity has co-opted all that into the celebration of Christmas. And it really is a beautiful thing. I was raised in Connecticut. When I was a kid, we loved the snow. It was so much fun, especially when we got a day off from school because we were snowed in and we could skip school and go sleigh riding or go skiing. I mean, it's capturing very, very beautiful images. It would be nice if we could retain all of that without the superstitious, without the mythological, and without castigating another religion. It would be nice if we could distill it out. And I know that's what you do, and that's what we do at L'Dor Va-Dor. We retain all the beauty, the mystery, the wonder, the joy, without having to accept false ideas or mythology and accept it as true.
Christians feel we're going to lose this magic of Christmas if we talk rationally about it. I don't think we'll lose the magic. If we let it be rational, we can still enjoy the magic of the moment.
Yeah, you know who said that very well was Richard Dawkins. He wrote a book, Unweaving the Rainbow. And what he said was that when he describes what causes a rainbow, a lot of people say, yeah, he's a killjoy. Instead of just appreciating the beauty of the rainbow and how wondrous it is, he's got to go explain it scientifically. And what Richard Dawkins says is, just because we understand it and know where it comes from doesn't make it any less beautiful, any less wondrous. In fact, it can enhance our appreciation of it when we see it and know what it's all about. So I agree with you, Fritz, that if we really understood where these ideas are coming from and the human psyche and how they move and motivate us, and the beauty of celebrating a child who's born to make the world better, we can all celebrate the birth of our children and our births as a miraculous event. And something that can help change the world, something that could be a game changer.
Yes, we need future generations to help us.
Right, and that's a very powerful imagery, and it's not just confined to one person, Jesus. It could be applied to the birth of anyone. And then I also have something that I'll point out to you, Fritz, that I don't think I've mentioned it to you before. The word Messiah starts with two letters, M-E, which is me. So there's a little bit of Messiah in me.
Absolutely.
Now, the word Messiah ends in Yah. Yah is shorthand for God, like in hallelujah, praise God. So in me, there's a little bit of God, but only in the middle of the word, it's S-I. S-I means yes. So if I say yes to godly influences, I can be a little Messiah. Not changing the entire planet, but doing my part to spread love and making the world a better place. And if all of us were to accept that role for ourselves and realize that there's a little Messiah in everybody, then we could bring about messianic times.
If we want to really increase love on the planet, all we got to do is bring rational thought to Christianity. Open our hearts to other people other than just ourselves. The love could explode within Christianity if we would just let a little rational thought be a part of it.
Well, you know what, Fritz, what I'm really thrilled about is that on this broadcast, Parson to Parson, you have brought to the table a new approach to Christianity, thinking about things rationally. And I think there's hope. I see hope, because this could go to thousands or millions of people one day. And so there is hope. I agree with you. If we approach religion with a sense of awe and wonder and also rational thinking, religion could be a truly wonderful influence in the world instead of the negativity that we sometimes see. So I thank you for sharing. You and I both have so much in common because we both use a rational approach to our traditions. And because of that, we often end up around the same place.
I came by this accidentally, I must say, though. It is accidentally happened to me. I did not somehow, you have done this all on your own. I had a lot of external help when I was younger that kind of like a 2x4 to my head that made me realize what I had been doing.
Well, you show the power of change. Most people can't change. You use your free will and your intellect to be able to change from where you were to another place, which is really quite awesome. I was raised by a rabbi who was a rational thinker. He raised me that way from the get-go. So I didn't have to go through any metamorphosis, but throughout my life, I'm constantly applying thinking and reason and history and philosophy to the Jewish religion. So it's constantly undergoing, I guess, refinement, modifications.
Yes, yes.
Well, Fritz, it was great chatting with you about Hanukkah and Christmas. And I look forward to the next session of Parson to Parson. And I thank everyone for joining us tonight. And please let your friends know that if they want to know why Jews could celebrate Christmas or how, or Christians celebrate Hanukkah in an interfaith home, this is a good opportunity. Let them watch this episode, and I think it would help them quite a bit. The two religions should get along. They're as close as mother and daughter. So let's see what we can do to build bridges of understanding among the religions. Pastor Fritz, you're really great at doing that. We thank you.
Underline every bit of what you're saying.
Thank you so much. Sharon, thanks for making all this happen. And we'll catch you on the next episode of Parson to Parson.
Good night.
Laila Tov.
Good night, everybody. Laila Tov. Have a happy holiday. Happy
Happy
Hanukkah to all.
Hanukkah, Merry Christmas.